Welcome back, guys. Hope you're doing great. It's Vetri here. Well, in this video, we're gonna learn how to build a product rating system by using this star SVG and kind of smooth transition effect. We're gonna build this all by completely from the ground, but just by using React with JavaScript and by using the Tailwind CSS with SVGs, right? So this rating system does have this hover with smooth transition effects, and as well as user can choose the ratings based on the partial like 3.2, 3.1, 3.4, like the partials. And does have this click event as well, so you can rate the systems, rate the products, and you can get the value, whatever the value that's selected by the user, right? So we're going to build this completely from the ground. So in this React series, previously we learned how to create a type of component more like an auto suggestions box. If you want to learn this, click the top right corner, you can see a link, click it, and you can go ahead and watch this. And if you want the source code completely for the free, you can click the link in the description below. You can see a GitHub link, you can access them. Just hit the start button to encourage us to come up with the more components for you guys. All right, so without wasting your time, let's get started. All right, I was inside the that UI library which we created in this project series. So all I have to do is to copy and paste this project completely, and I'm gonna rename this project as the star rating system, something like this. Okay, so inside this project we do have the source, and inside this we do have this utils. I'm gonna clear all these utils, literally empty, and inside the components folder I'm gonna delete these two and keep the index as well as empty. And inside the app.jsx, I'm gonna delete this. Okay, so what we have to do is basically we have to create a new file over here. Let me create a new file, and that file which is going to be star ratings. And inside that star ratings, what are the values that we are going to supply to it? So basically we're going to supply the because this component needs to return that value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create myself a state. So let's say const ratings set ratings equals to react.use state, and let me supply the initial value as somewhat like 2.5. But in a real case scenarios, you have to supply the product ratings which is already stored, or you have to supply the value as 0. In this case I'm going to supply 2.5, and here I can say value which is going to be the ratings, and on change, whenever that's a changes it's been happening, you need to send that set ratings functions into it as a reference. This is the thing. So let's go ahead and create a new file inside the component folder called star rating .jsx, and let me say rafc, and then I'm just going to say star ratings, something like this, star rating. Close this. This component is basically going to receive two different properties. One is going to be value and another one is going to be the on change. Save this. Let's get back over here, and we have to export it in the index. So let's say export default as star rating from /star rating. Save it, and let me import it from that specific location called star rating, not ratings, rating, which is coming from where, from the components folder, which means it is also imported in the same import statement itself. Let's delete that type demo. All right, so now we have the star rating. So let me start this application just by installing all those wait a second. Terminal. Yes, here it is. So let me clear this, and let me jump into the React components, JavaScript, and star ratings. Clear it, and then I'm just going to say npm install first, because we have to install those things. Install, clear. Then I'm just going to say npm run dev. So this is going to run our applications in the local host, and let me open this local host. So this is how it looks. Okay, and that's what we needed. Now all I have to do when it comes to design wise, so let's say let me get into this star ratings, and here I'm gonna say class name flex column. Okay, so my suggestions are not working in this case. You just have to reload your window. So let's say reload the window. Most cases that might happen. Sometimes IntelliSense will not work properly as you expected. Just reload it. It will take some time, but and eventually it will start working with that intelligence. Item center, item center, and space y, which is going to be 4. Okay, so let me enable the word wrap, and let me make it a little bit even bigger so you can see my screen in a more clear way when I'm writing the code. All right, and that's what we needed. So now we have that. So inside the star rating, so I'm going to bring myself a span tag, which is going to be the label. Okay, basically this is going to be your label. Okay, so this, so far we don't have this like what to say. So the label that needs to be also collected from the user, right? So what I have to do is, so let's say I'm gonna because since we are planning to create this as a reusable component, we have to make sure about all the possibilities, right? So let's say I'm gonna make sure the total stars, how many total stars that needs to be created by the user. By initially, if by default it needs to be 5. If the user supplies the value, it needs to be overridden. Okay, then I need to supply the precision is in a, like the value like 0.1, or if the user wants to carry on the value just by the 0.5 differentiations, 2.5, 4, or 4.55, something like that. Or if you want the rating system be more precise, like 3.1, 3.2, something like that, you need to set the precision default value as 0.1. Then the icon size, so I'm going to fix the icon size as 36 by default. Okay, then I'm going to supply the label, which is going to be let's say rate this product. That's the default placeholder that we're going to supply for this, and I'm going to use that label over here. Save it. These are all the properties which we are going to use in this. Okay, now let's make some styles for this span tag. So let's say for class name, flex gap is equals to 2, and then bg sorry, for the label, right? So this is going to be, text is going to be smaller, then font is going to be the medium one, then text needs to be the neutral 600, something like this. Okay, and then so next what we need to do is, right after this span tag, I'm going to bring myself a division class name, and this, in case we are going to display all these stars in a single row. So let's say flex, and then gap, which is going to be 2, and then bg, that needs to be white bg, and px, which is going to be 6, py, it's going to be 3, rounded to excel, and then shadow, that needs to be medium. Somewhat it looks like that. Then right after that, I need to bring the star, right? So basically we are going to keep this, that particular star as an internal component over here, because we are not going to reuse it. So first let's go ahead and create that star component, which is going to carry on the let's say const star, which is going to be return, and inside the star basically we're going to use this fill effect, which is going to be 0. Then I'm going to use this size, that is also going to be 36. Then I'm going to use this, all the default properties, whatever the properties that we're going to get, we're going to keep that default properties over here. Then right after here, I'm going to bring myself a division. Inside the division, which is going to be position as a relative position, then the cursor, which is going to be the pointer. Then inside over here, style, I'm going to open it. I'm going to fix the width of this division, that is based on the size property, whatever we do have, which is right, that needs to be based on the size property, and height as well as needs to be based on the size property. Okay, then I'm gonna destructure all the default properties for that particular star. So right after here, I'm gonna get that empty star first, empty star. Okay, then we need to bring the filled portions. Okay, so for that, so let's create that the star. So basically we are going to use the star which we design it in the Figma. So let me open my Figma over here. So this is the star which I designed. So you can either use by our own design, Or you can go to font awesome, you can choose any of this outline, something like the vector styles, and you can get that image svg, and you can copy and paste that code. In this case, just like the same way, I can get this, copy and paste this, copy as svg. You can copy that svg and you can simply paste that svg straight away over here. Okay, just like this. And in that, I'm gonna have myself these class properties. Absolute width needs to be full, height needs to be full, and the text color needs to be gray 300. So this will looks like something like this. And then right after here, then we need to bring the filled portions, filled star portions. Okay, which we are going to use the exact same star only, but in a different way. So I'm going to bring a different div, which is going to be absolute, and it's going to be insert 0 property, and overflow needs to be hidden, and transition needs to be all, and then duration needs to be 200, and then ease in out. Okay, then I'm going to use the style, which is going to use the width, which is as the size, and then height, which is going to be the size. So size is basically used on the parent component. Here we don't have that, so the width needs to be filled 100% of the whatever the percentage that it's been selected, that needs to be filled 100%. So what I'm going to do is, I'm gonna use these fill properties over here, all those fill properties. So I'm gonna get that fill property, so this needs to be filled. So I'm gonna bring the dynamic string literals. Let's use this. Then I'm gonna say fill multiplied into 100, then convert it into percentage, something like that. Okay, now inside this division, we're gonna bring the svgs. So literally, I'm gonna copy this svg from here, literally paste it. Then here, I'm gonna make sure that few of the things that it's not necessary, which is going to be your stroke and the stroke width. Delete this, which is not necessary. And then fill, which needs to be the current color, whatever the color that it does have, that needs to be filled with. Okay, use the current color over here. And in this class name, I'm just going to change all these stuffs. Then I'm just going to say text yellow 400 something. This is the color that I want to use. Then I'm going to say the style property. With the style property, I'm going to set the width with the size, and I'm going to set the height with the size as well as. Okay, so save this. This is the stuff that we need to do. Now let's get back over here. Now we need to render those things. So in order to render these, so I'm going to bring an array over here. So let me bring an array, create an array. Then I'm going to destructure the array instance. Then I'm going to supply the total stars into it, whatever it is, 5 or 10, then something. Then right after here, I'm going to use the map function in order to render it. Then I don't need to get the value, but I need the index. So the second property, I'm going to supply the value rendering parenthesis over here. Then I need to render the star component, which we do have. For the star component, key needs to be index. Then size needs to be the size itself. Then fill effect needs to be, it needs to fill based on the value, based on the index. So you will supply the index, then it will have this function called get fill based on the index method. We don't have that function yet, so we have to get that. So what I'm going to do is, right after here, okay, right after here, I'm gonna get the fill effects, right? So like what is it, how much points that you need to fill that particular star, like 3.2, 3.3, something like that. So in order to do that, we need to set in state value. So let's say const hover value, then set hover value, which hover value is equals to react.use state, then set it as null value. Then right after here, I'm going to get the const display value, how much value that you want to display. So if I do have the hover value, then I can set that value. So if I don't have the hover value, set the value as the display value. If I do have some hover value, keep that value or hover value as the display value. Because every time whenever you use a hover the star, you need to change the value, what's that particular star rating it is. Then only the user can set that rating to that particular product. If you're not displaying the hovered the selected area, then it's not going to work. So right after here, I'm going to get that function const get fill function, then I'm going to get the index, send the index as the parameter into it. So I need to figure out the difference. Const difference is equals to display value minus that particular index. Then using return, I'm going to set find the math dot max function, open it. So 0, then math dot minimum function. Then you need to figure out the difference between the one. So the reason why we are using is because we need to make sure, okay, this math not match, okay, math. So what we are trying to do over here is basically this function here at this point math dot minimum, we have some difference value over here, whatever the index which is coming based on the display value, we have that differentiations over here. So that differentiation that needs to be from 0 to 1, like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, something like that. And then the maximum value that needs to it, that should not and the main reason we are using the math dot function max outside of that layer, it's because it should not go to the negative value. Star ratings needs to be from 0 to 5. So that's the reason we are figuring out the difference over here. Then we are making sure that value is from 0 to 1, from 0.1 0 to 1 value, and that from that value we are getting the maximum value. Okay, we are getting the maximum fill value over here. All right, so let me explain this in a brief way, so with a proper explanation, so you can understand instead of saying it in theory. So let me explain it now. Well, basically, so the main purpose of this function is commonly used, right? We know that for starring rating systems, right? So that helps us to determine how much of a star should be filled, like empty or half or partial or full stars, right? So let me break it to here. So basically, this function is expecting the index, right? So think about it. The array, we are using an array, so which means the first star will be the 0th index. Star number 1 will be on what? So the first star will be on 0th index, second star will be on first index, third and fourth and fifth. This is what it looks, right? So this is the 0th. So the first star will be on what? Fourth. Let me wait, instead of this, let me use the multi-line comment. Oh, come on. Here, so let me bring the star. So this is the star, right? So let me bring this star. So this will be on what? On 0th index. This will be on first index, and this will be on second, third and fourth. So far we have, how many stars we do have? 5 stars, and these are the index positions that we do have over here. Okay, so we are calculating the difference over here, which means the display value minus the index positions. So let's say we have the display value as what, like 3.5. That's the default value that we are supplying into the value over here, right? What is the value that we are supplying? 2.5. Okay, so we are supplying the 2.5. So that 2.5 will be um okay, so let's say the display value for the rating, which is going to be the 2.5, that's what we are setting over there. So oh, come on, sorry, my bad, sorry for the confusion. So let's say the display value, which is going to be 2.5, that's the 2.5 difference value. So if you are trying to figure it out, the difference over here, so the display value is 2.5. What is the index value now? 0. 2.5 minus 0, that is still, it's going to be 2.5. So here we need to supply the we need to supply the difference, right? So now the difference 2.5 minus 1, which is going to be 1.5. That goes the same for what? The 2, number 2, which is going to be 2.5 minus 2, which is going to be 0.5. And for 3, it will goes beyond that value, which means the negative value, that's a 0. That will takes as the 0. So that's the reason we are using this math.minimum and max function. It helps us to, because when you're trying to differentiate, find the differentiations between the display value and the index, because currently the display value is 2.5. You're trying to do it with the number 3, 2.5 minus 3, which is minus 0.5. So we will get the negative value, which we don't want that. That's the reason we use this over here, in order to make sure that decimal value needs to be from 0 to 1. And that's the same way, it should not go to the negative value. It should always stays on the positive value. That's the minimum positive value. Will set it as 0. So if it is going negative value, the value will be assigned to 0. So if the 2.5 is there, so we need to fill 2 stars, then we need to partially fill on the third star. Okay, so that's the reason we get the answer over here, which is 2.5. So this is how the display value will works, right? So that's exactly we have, and we have the system which is working perfectly. Okay, now we need to make sure to move along with the mouse the hover effect as well, as that also needs to work along with that. Then on the click, I need to change the value as well as, and underneath it I need to display the we need to display that selected rating value, right? So first let's go ahead and get that the handle mouse event, right? So let's say const handle mouse move, which is equals to, we're gonna get that event. Then along with that, I'm gonna get that index as well as open it. So I'm gonna get the left and the width from the event dot current target, wherever that event is being triggered, get that current target. Then from the get bounding client rect, that's the function. So if you search for get bounding client rect in JavaScript, if you search for that, that is going to give you this. This is the function that we are going to, this is a method in JavaScript that provides the information about the size of an element and its position of the element. So basically we need the leftmost positions and the size of that particular element wherever we are hovering it. We need to get that. So I'm going to use this particular property, open it, that's a function. Okay, now we will have that. Then right after here, I'm going to calculate the percentage, which is equals to from the event dot client x position, client x minus that leftmost position, then divided with the width property. So you will get that how that the maximum percentage of that particular star, right? Then I'm going to convert it into the raw star just by index plus that percentage. Okay, then I need to snap the position, right? Like the more like the in the Amazons, like 3.1, 3.2, something like the more precise value. So I'm gonna get the snapped value, const snapped, which is equals to math dot round, then supply the raw value which you calculated, divided with the position value, which is the default value we have 0.1 precision value, then multiply that precision value as well as precision multiplied with the precision values. This is the normal mathematical calculations which we need to do for star ratings. Then I need to supply this for hover value, set hover value, which is going to be snapped. Okay, so well, basically this function which we have over here, it's like to get the fractional values like 3.1, 3.2, even more, not just the half of the star. We need to get the more precise decimal value. So it calculates how much of the star that mouse is hovering over, and it converts into the precise rating values as well as, right? So that's why we need this function which is collecting the two different parameters. One is event and as well as the index. So this runs whenever the mouse moves over the star. So the parameter which we are receiving, which is going to be the mouse event and as well as the index of it. Okay, so for example, we have 5 different stars, so index value will be from 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, and the second value, we need to get the star position. So for that, we are using the get bounding rect. So this gets the exact positions of the star and the exact width, which of the size of the star element. Okay, so for example, let's say from the left it's going to be 200 pixels and the width of the star is going to be the 36 pixels in our case. Okay, something like that. That's the exact positions and the star width, which means the distance between from one star to the second star. Okay, so that will helps us to calculate the mouse position percentage by what? By calculating this mouse position percentage. Okay, this calculates how far which is inside that particular star the mouse is. Okay, so by using that, we are getting the client text positions inside that from the leftmost positions of the star width inside. What is the exact position of the mouse which is inside the star? That's what we are calculating at this line. Okay, meaning let's say if you are keeping the mouse in the center, which means it's in the 50 percentage of the star. That's what we are expecting. Then we need to convert the rating value. Okay, so that's what we are converting the rating value over here. So that converts the relative star position into the rating value. Okay, so let's say if the index is 3 and the received and the calculated percentage value which we have is 0.5, so the exact rating value will be 3.5. so that we are doing over here. Okay, so next we need to snap the position, the precision value, right? So this ensures the rating follows the more specific step size like 3.1 or 3.2, something like that. Okay, so we are not supposed to allow the users to just give the 0.5 and numerical ratings. We have to allow the user to give the more precise rating value. Okay, so that the precisions there are like 0.1, 0.5 and 1. If you are setting the 0.1 precision value, which means you are allowing the user to give the decimal value from 0.0 to 1, whatever the value it is. If you are setting the precision value is 0.5, which means you are making sure that the user can select only the 0.5 rating and the complete value, not any other in between values as itself. If you are giving the precision value as 1, user can give the rating as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it, not more than that. That's the precision value that we are calculating over here, right? This is what this particular function it's doing. Now where I can use this function, in order to use this function, I'm gonna make sure right after here in the star, I'm just going to say on mouse move, on mouse move. That's the function. I'm gonna get the event, then I'm gonna supply that handle mouse event, send that event along with the index value, save it. Then right after here, on mouse leave, I'm gonna get that set hover value which is into null. Okay, then on click, wait a second, come on, these things need to be right after on mouse leave, which is equals to, I have a callback, and let's say set hover value into null. Then right after here, I'm gonna say on click, which is going to be, I'm gonna simply set this value. We need to change this value, right? So this on change, sometimes it will not be available, so it will cause an issue. So I'm just going to say handle click have a function. Then right after here, const handle click, get the event of that. We don't even need the event because we are not going to do anything using that function. Open it, and inside here I'm just going to say on change from the property. If I do have that, then I'm gonna update that hover value. If I don't even have that hover value, set the value as the default value. Okay, this is what it's going to be. Now if you hover it, you can see you can, even the user can select the more precise values over here, and if you click that, it will be highlighting that particular selected portions. Okay, so now the stars is it's all working perfectly. and that's what we needed. So whenever we are hovering it, it will calculate the more precise value of that particular positions, and it will going to fill that stars with it. Okay, which is working perfectly. And right after this particular division, I'm going to bring myself the span tag, then I'm going to display that value. Make sure to display more decimal, just only one decimal units, just by then right after here I'm gonna bring the total stars, how many total stars, out of how many total stars, save it. This is how it looks. Then I'm just going to say class name text, which is going to be extremely small, then text neutral, which is going to be 500. This is how it looks, right? So now whenever you're hovering it, you can see we have the more precise rating values which is displaying. So that helps us to use it to select that value. Once you selected it, it is going to keep that value, something like this. Okay, so this is exactly what we needed, which is the complete rating system which we have. It's working perfectly as it's supposed to be. All right, so I hope you guys learned something new over here. So if you learned something new over here, hit the like and subscribe button. That will help us to come up with the more concepts, React concepts. Yeah, and then if you want the source code, you can click the link in the description below. You can get that source code and you can use it for free. And if you have any questions, or if I explained it in anything in a wrong way, please pinpoint that in the comment sections. We are happy to help you out. All right, I'll see you all in the next video then.